Hello. It has been a very long time since I last recorded a video. It is currently May 10th, 2023. I am almost 4 years post-op for endometrial adenocarcinoma, which was found to be a glandular cancer in the glands that produce the uterine lining. I was diagnosed at 29 years old. I had a hysterectomy at 30, and I am now 34. So a lot has happened in the last 4 years. 6 weeks post op, I married my lovely husband. Um, we have taken our time really getting used to life. I guess you could say different challenges have presented themselves in this time, but we are still together and still very much in love and very blessed to have a home and have jobs and have goals that we work toward together. We're very much a team. Um, my last video, I promised that I would follow up with a conversation or another video about the emotional state post-op and in the following weeks. I decided to kind of catch up where I left off and talk about my emotional state, but now after almost 4 years, I want to talk about how it's changed because it's when you're in the midst of a struggle, it's really hard to see the way out. It's hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And unfortunately, I did find myself in a tunnel for a while. So we're going to go back to the week before my hysterectomy. Um, I did not want to have my surgery. I told my husband I would rather die than be infertile. I actually told him that is the week that I was diagnosed with cancer. And he told me at that time, and he started crying, and he said, I cannot promise you that I will not one day need to be a dad. I can't promise you that I'll be with you forever and I'll never leave. But I'm almost 40 and I've accepted that it may not happen for me. And also, I can't even think about fatherhood right now. The only thing I can think about every single day is that I need you to be okay. I need you to be healthy and I need you to be alive. He said that to me when we had been dating for 3 years, when I was 29 and he was 39. And it was at that moment that I knew that I was going to marry him. And I did. And it's been great. I absolutely don't regret that decision. He's been phenomenal for me. Um, but I share that with you to kind of highlight the emotional position that I was in. I put so much stock into motherhood and fertility that I never considered a me without children. I never considered a life where that would never happen for me. It was the one thing that I always knew that I would do. So, 1 week prior to my surgery, I wanted to run away. I wanted to throw myself into a forest and hide from the world and allow cancer to take my life. My husband didn't know that I was suicidal. I did not tell him. But when the nurse asked in my pre op visit whether I had had suicidal thoughts, I said that I did. She encouraged me to get help. She asked my husband if he knew. Of course, he didn't. Um, and of course, she provided some resources, none of which I took seriously or followed up on. And the day of my surgery, I wanted to get up screaming and run away and hide, but I didn't, and I went through with it. It was one of the hardest decisions I've ever had to make in my life, because signing that authorization to allow somebody to take away your fertility when it's the only thing you've ever wanted is such an impotent feeling. But I did. Um, I ignored after that how I was feeling. I ignored it for a long time. I drowned myself in my wedding and school and my house and everything else that I was doing at work, my patients, and I focused so hard on school and on my career that I wasn't allowing myself the mental space to really process what had just happened to me. So, when I graduated from school and I scored the job of the lifetime that I'd always wanted, and I had all of this spare time now because work was pretty stable and I wasn't spending hours a night on homework. I think that my body slowed down, and somehow that opened up the emotional floodgates. And my insecurities started. Um, there were a few times that I don't want to say controlling it, it's not the right word, but there were little things that would kind of set me off that would make me feel like, oh, well, maybe, my husband might see this young person over here and, this single mom over there and see a value in one of them that he doesn't see in me, because men tend to think of women in sense of utility and how we can best serve them and improve their lives. And I doubted myself a lot for a long time. Ultimately, I ended up in therapy, and I work now with a psychiatrist and a psychologist to address these feelings and also other feelings. In a separate video, I'll kind of go over where my fertility journey has gone since then, because it wasn't the dead end that I thought it was going to be. But in confronting what happened and in confronting my current, infertility issues, it actually brought up a lot of old trauma associated with domestic violence in my past. And reproductive abuse was, there was my dog. Reproductive abuse was unfortunately one of those things that I experienced. And without getting too, into that, because it's a whole different lifetime and a whole different me that, I'm not that person anymore. Um, it just triggered a whole lot of emotion and anger. Um, and I've been working on that with my doctors lately. So I guess the only thing that I can say is that no matter where you are in the journey, I think that it is important to stop and assess yourself for how you're feeling and whether or not you're actually dealing with what's going on. Because if you're not dealing with the emotional side effects of your female cancer, then you are going to hit a wall, so to speak, emotionally, like I did. And when I did, I fell apart. I stopped cleaning my house. I stopped cooking. My hygiene took a terrible nosedive. I wasn't setting goals for myself. I wasn't hiking, and I love hiking. That's my whole life. I wasn't taking my dog out. I wasn't doing anything. I was just stuck. I was so terribly stuck. Um, I have spent just over a year working with a psychiatrist and a psychologist to try to address post traumatic stress disorder associated with my violent past, and really learning to be comfortable with the fact that my husband and I are enough for me. I want more. I'm still working on getting more, but I'm also making peace with the fact that even if I had children with him, naturally, children come and go. And ultimately, your role as a parent is not to give yourself up to them, but to create another man or woman that is going to walk in this world and contribute to society in a certain way. And ultimately, that kid too will end up growing up and leaving you. And at the end of the day, we're born alone and we die alone. And I just need to be okay with the mark that I leave on this world and do my best to make sure that whatever I leave behind is a net positive, to be able to pass away calmly and with no regrets and say that I have done more good in this world than bad. That has to be enough, and it will be. Um, the feelings of inadequacy, the feelings of being neither man nor woman, all of those things did come for me. They all were overwhelming for me for a while. Feeling ugly, feeling like even that there was no use, no reason, no purpose for being intimate with my husband, because ultimately my body was a dumping ground. I mean, those feelings were very, very hard to experience. And you should never deal with them on your own. Uh, you will tell yourself lies, especially if you have gone through the emotional turmoil that I've gone through in my past, and you've learned from others how to be unkind to yourself about yourself. You won't be able to navigate those emotions on your own. And I think that advocating for yourself and for your mental health is vital. There are free services, look into church services, look into county services, call the 1-800 numbers that you find when you Google. Reach out to your health insurance if you have it and see who they contract with so that you can find an in network provider that you can talk to. And if the first person, that's my girl there, if the first person doesn't work, then go to the next person. You know, don't ever give up on you. You are not less of a person, less of a woman. You are not ugly. You are not tarnished. You are not stained. Your worth is more than the ability to bear children. And it took me a long time to reconcile knowing that with feeling that. Because in my heart or in my mind, I knew it, but in my heart, I couldn't get the two to agree. So take stock of yourself. Ask yourself how you're feeling. And if the things that you're saying to yourself are things that you would never say to a friend of yours, then I encourage you to get some help. If you find a support group that you feel you can open up to about all of those emotions, then that's wonderful. But if you do need uh, a personal space where you can let those things out, then please, please, please make sure that you have access to that. Um, not a whole lot of other help that I can give on the subject, other than to continue to tell my story and tell you guys in, subsequent videos how things get better in time. So stay tuned for that, and I should be posting another video relatively soon after this one. Thank you.